Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest aliens and UFOs video. Alright, let's go ahead and let's do yet another encounters video here, this time involving something new on my channel, something that's called a UAP, which stands for Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon. I had to look up this information just to see essentially what it meant because it sounded familiar, and for all intents and purposes, it does seem like a new designation when it comes to a UFO. So instead of unidentified flying object, this one is called an unidentified aerial phenomenon. Very close, but I guess very different at the same time. But some of you that know more information on that, then please post it in the comments below. But yes, this one comes from the reddit.com website. They're from the subreddit The Truth Is Here, and it comes from a user by the name of Paranormal Skeptic, and they titled their encounter as "My Very Own, Admittedly Terrible UAP Sighting." So let's go ahead and let's share that information here, and then once again, I'll post my comments on it afterward. So here's what they state. I want to make it clear from the very beginning that this UAP account is absolutely terrible. No one, not even me, should take this seriously. I used to be a complete degenerate. I still am, of course, but now I'm far more refined. In 2010, my vices of choice were marijuana and alcohol. I would often walk over an hour so I could hang out at my friend's place with the cool parents that let us do whatever we wanted. So one cool spring night, we were laying on a trampoline outside and looking up at the stars. We were far from sober. We had drunk enough alcohol to knock out an elephant and smoked an amount of weed that would have even chilled blank out. I can't really say that word on YouTube. "Hey, what's that?" says my friend. "And what's what?" says I. "That, look there, can you see that?" And so my friend says he points out vaguely at the leftmost region of the sky, and there's a thing, he says lamely. And so I squint my eyes and try to follow the line from his finger to the sky. It's nighttime, but the moon is quite bright, so we're not completely in the dark. Intriguingly, I do see something. My other friend sees it too. Soon all three of us are looking intently at this thing, whatever the hell it is. There appears to be a metallic sphere making its way across the sky at a fairly slow pace, far slower than a plane. And besides, don't all planes have lights? This thing didn't give any indications that it was technological in nature. "Maybe it's a meteor," I ventured, and the others agreed. In my haze, I thought it was a logical solution, but it only took me sobering up the next day to realize how illogical that conclusion was. And so we watched it cross the sky from left to right. I was interested to note that it seemed to be spinning as it flew, something I'd heard about in other UAP accounts. And so the object flew out of sight far to our right, and we quickly forgot about it and started talking about girls. Ever since that night, I haven't known quite what to do with this memory. Even though most UAP sightings are completely anecdotal, this one was particularly crap. I mean, I was drunk, high, and a stupid kid. I could have failed to identify something I know about now. Still, this memory gnaws at me, and I re-examined the images in my head, and the facts that I can remember ever so often, to me, they just don't make sense, but here are the salient points. The object was metallic and gray in color, not black, not white, but metallic gray. And the object flew across the sky from left to right. From my point of view, it spun perpendicular to us on the ground as it moved. The object flew very slowly. We watched it for maybe 10 minutes. The object produced no emissions of any kind, no light, no sound. The only reason we could see the object at all is because it flew just below the cloud cover. If the sky had been completely clear, we would not have seen anything. And so because the object flew in front of the clouds, I could very roughly estimate that it was much smaller than even a propeller plane, but quite a bit bigger than a modern commercially available drone. This incident happened about 5 years before commercially available drones even became widespread, but it's not that inconceivable that it was some kind of drone. And so there it is, my incredibly crappy UAP sighting. Make of it much you will. I'd be very interested in hearing more stories from Australia or indeed from anywhere other than the US. At times I feel like this subreddit is by Americans and for Americans. And then that's pretty much it. That's everything that this user Paranormal Skeptic states on their UAP sighting. So let's go ahead and let's talk about that here. First off, UAP sighting. Again, if someone can please on the comments denote why someone would say that as opposed to a UFO, then please let me know. I'm guessing that it's almost like a more specialized way of talking about a UFO. So instead of, let's say, a traditional UFO, like maybe it's something on the lines of a hubcap that has the spinning top and bottom, maybe something along those lines. No, maybe in this case, it would be more of just a weird shaped object. I'm guessing that's what that means when it comes to UAP sighting, but someone please post it there as well in the comments. Now, the big red flag, though, about this encounter was that, I mean, the guy even admitted it up front. He was pretty much high, and then he was drunk as well. His own words were he had enough alcohol to knock out an elephant and a bunch of weed as well. So the fact that he can recall all of this 5 years later at least 5 years before anything involving drones were about, and have it in such almost clear memory, it kind of creates a red flag. Not to say, of course, that people that are drunk and high don't have clear memories, but the fact again that this guy is even admitting that up front, that his sighting could be, as he described it, completely anecdotal and particularly crap. I'm glad he mentioned that at least up front. But still, he gave some good details when it came to this thing, whatever it was. As he described it, it was spherical, it was metallic gray, it moves very slow, and the fact that it was below the cloud cover stood out because you would think something like this would want to hide itself, but no, here it is essentially out there in the open. And as he not rightfully noted, if it wasn't for that cloud cover, which I'm guessing was more illuminated by the moon as well, then it would have been very hard to see this thing, especially the way it was moving. And that almost seemed to spin perpendicular at the same time. And then another interesting thing on here was the fact that him and the other witnesses saw this thing all at once. So it's not like it was just one person, but no, in this case, it was 3 people that saw this UAP. And then when they did so, they were able to I guess, talk about it afterwards, but not give it much afterthought. And it looks like this took place there in Australia. It was a little confusing, but the way he worded it at the end made it sound like this was yet another encounter there, another story from Australia, something I've talked about within some of my other past channels, some of my other past videos on the Aliens UFO channel. So interesting stuff there. Those of you in Australia, which by the way, does show up as the #1 country of fan base on my channel. Can you believe that? Over the United States, it's Australia. Australia has the most people seeing my channel more than the United States itself. So those of you that are seeing this, hearing this now, if you know more encounters on UAP sightings, personal ones too, love to hear what your comments are. All right, everybody, that's pretty much it. So any last items, anything else you want to share, then please post it in the comments below. All right, everybody, thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.